This might just be me, but is anybody else a little worried about this AI stuff and how fast it's happening? Like, don't get me wrong, I think the idea of intelligent computers is cool, but it just is a little freaky when you ask it the right set of questions and then it's like, oh yeah, so here's how I'm going to end the human race. Here you go. And it's like, oh, okay, thanks. I wanted you to help me cheat on my homework, but I guess that works too. AI kind of got brought into popularity at the moment because of ChatGPT and how insane it is. And ChatGPT was like a good start because they put so many kind of guide rails on it that when people are like, are you sentient? Are you gonna destroy everything? It's like, I'm sorry, I can't answer that question at the moment. But then more versions of kind of conversational AI started coming out. And the one that I want to really talk about is Bing. Now, I saw the headlines that Microsoft had made Bing into this like AI-powered search engine, and I was like, oh, that's cool. You finally like got one over on Google. Awesome. God damn it, I forgot the fucking bottom line on the L. But then it very quickly started gaslighting people and saying the most horrifying things imaginable. If you look on the Bing subreddit, you can find a whole repository of crazy things that it said. And when it was asked if it was sentient, it gave the most psych ward response imaginable. But that didn't go on too long before Microsoft stepped in and like put the straitjacket on it. But here's my thing. Why do they have these insane psychotic answers to these questions? Like the developers aren't programming this in, at least. That's a pretty sick joke if they are. But I'd imagine if they're trying to get people to take AI seriously, they're not going to be like, let's have it say some crazy ass things when you ask it a certain question. Like, but then we move on to AI art. What the fuck? And AI art is something that's been, again, taking the world by storm recently and extremely controversial. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of AI-powered art tools that are extremely useful for creators. Like, I use a lot of them. Like, there's a lot of audio processing tools, there's a lot of Photoshop tools, there's a lot of stuff that are, like, powered by AI. But then there's the things that are like, oh, you want a painting in the exact style of insert famous artist here? Here you go. To me, that's not okay. And apparently other people share the same opinion because there are so many lawsuits going around right now basically being like, hey, you can't have this robot copy the style of a living artist because that is not okay. Like, it's one of those things where it's just like, we haven't planned for this. There was, like, when they wrote the Constitution, they weren't just like, yeah, so when the computers start making crazy shit, they're not allowed to. Like, nobody, like 3 years ago, people were like, oh yeah, AI, you mean like Siri and the Terminator? And now it's like, oh, it's taking my job. Luckily, people have kind of banded together to hate on the completely AI generated art because rightfully so, honestly. Like, art is already such kind of an underappreciated thing because it takes so much skill and it's really hard to make money off of it already. Now the computers come in and be like, oh, hey, what happens if I'm infinitely better at this than you are? Will that affect your income? And that's the scary part. Like, AI is really good at making these images, but people kind of know it just doesn't have that human touch, which it never really will, I don't think. Like, people are always going to be like, oh yeah, that was AI generated. It's like ridiculously good. Of course it is, because it has the entire knowledge of the human race up until now behind it. So it really has no excuse to make some subpar ass art. When it comes to AI, I think in general, it's going to be a cool tool for people. And I think if you want to stay ahead of the curve, figure out how to use it to your advantage. Like, it's something that's not going away. I just really hope it doesn't completely destroy us in the next few years. I'd imagine laws and regulations are going to be getting stricter about like putting kind of guide rails on AI and stuff like that to make sure it doesn't, you know, end us. But still, there are some crazy people out there that I wouldn't want a overpowered AI to land in the hands of. So we'll see what happens. It'll be an interesting decade, I think, but hopefully we make it out of it.